rumours and fight cards and everything's going off in the boxing world. So, quick introduction. Good evening, Andy. How you going?
Yeah, good, mate. How are you?
Yeah, it's going to be a busy one tonight. So, let's jump straight into it. We'll start off with the upcoming cards, and we'll move on to the rumour stuff. So, let's start with the BT Sport card, which is this Friday, not Saturday, guys. Friday. Your call. Andy, I'll leave it over to you to take us through the two fights that we're going to review.
Yeah, your call for me, still the home of boxing in the UK. I'm desperate to go to your call, Carl. Never been there. I know it's a small venue, and I know a lot of fighters actually that fight there. But going off on a tangent before we even started here, aren't I? A lot of the fighters that fight there don't like it.
No,
but it is the home of boxing in the UK. So I would like to go there at some point.
They do say it's behind the scenes, don't they? The changing facilities and stuff like that.
Yeah, because it's such an old building.
Yeah,
it's such an old building. They say they can't change anything. Everything's tiny because of where it is as well. You know, there's no room for renovations to improve it. It is what it is. But they did say the changing rooms are tiny. They're freezing. Blah 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 blah. Anyway, every boxer that is worth anything has fought at your call at some point in their career. So again, this is a great opportunity for these fighters to be fighting in such a legendary venue. So we'll start off with Ellis Zorro against Dex Spellman, cruiserweight fight. I mean, we've had a couple of conversations with Dex.
Yeah,
he looks like he's got a brand new lease of life at cruiserweight, don't he?
Yeah, that's fair to say. I mean, this Zorro, which however you want to pronounce it, is 14-0, isn't it? He's a British lad. Let's have it right, Andy. He's the only fighter in this fight.
Yeah, and I would expect he's being backed heavily by Frank Warren here, and Frank would be expecting to get a result, but don't ever count out Dex Spellman.
Well, I was just about to say, looking through Zorro's resume, Spellman's his toughest fight yet.
Yeah.
So you're gonna find out what minerals this guy's got, because, like I said, Spellman comes to fight, doesn't it? One thing you're gonna get is a war.
Dex Spellman will dig in all night, mate. He'll dig in all night, and he's got, like I've just said earlier. I don't like repeating myself, but he has a new lease of life at this weight. He got to a point. He says he can still make light heavy, but he's fought everyone at light heavy that's worth the salt. And against the real top guys, he come a little bit unstuck. But he said that himself. But put a real great performance in against them guys as well, by the way.
Still had the minimal to jump in with them when nobody else wanted to. Absolutely.
And like I say, he says he feels fresher, he feels stronger, he feels happier. It's going to be a really interesting fight, this. Because this puts Deck right in amongst the cruiserweights if he wins this fight. I know this kid's only 14-0, but he's clearly the fighter being pushed.
Yeah.
This could set something big up for Dex Spellman if he wins this.
Fingers crossed for him. Fingers crossed, because he deserves another go on the merry-go-round, don't you? You know, he almost got there at the weight class below, and he can fight. He's got a lot of talent. He's not just no way is he a journeyman or anything at that level.
No.
The guy can fight.
No, he's got plenty left, mate.
He's only 30.
Yeah, I think he gets a result here, mate, and he could very easily get one of the big boys at cruiserweight that we've talked about in previous shows. Yeah, fingers crossed. I like Deck a lot. He's a very nice fella.
Yeah, he's great.
So yeah, fingers crossed for Deck in this fight. Moving on to the headliner, which I think is a really good fight. It's going to be just like the last fight Denzel Bentley had. It's going to be very 50-50. Denzel Bentley, Marcus Morrison for the British middleweight title. How do you see this one going, Carl?
Well, Morrison's obviously boiling down because he does operate as super middle as a rule, don't he? You know, he jumped in with the likes of Zach Parker and Eubank Jr. and fell a bit short, which is no disgrace. I think Marcus Morrison is your typical fighter who just hasn't had a push. So I don't think this is a proper war, this one.
Yeah, it's a good fight.
It's a tough one to call because I think people think Morrison, Bentley's going to steamroll Morrison. It depends what he's like at the weight, Andy. That's all I'd say.
Well, if he does make the weight and he makes it without any hassle, imagine what he's going to come in at on fight night.
Yeah.
He's going to be the bigger fighter for sure. But I like Denzel Bentley a lot.
It's interesting though because these two fighters are of similar level, aren't they? For being brutally honest, they've both stepped up and been found wanting a little bit, and that's why I find it quite intriguing because I'd say they're of similar ability. I think Bentley's probably just the fresher of the two, so I think he'll take it. So I'm going to go Bentley to win on points.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. Bentley's on a bit of a roll. And that makes a big difference in fights like this. Because when you start getting into the trenches later on in the rounds, in the championship rounds, that's when darts might start creeping in for Marcus Morrison. And you get a few demons maybe coming back into his mind about previous fights. Denzel's not had that for a while now. He's had a couple of really, really impressive performances. And I see a Denzel Bentley win on points itself.
Playing devil's advocate to that, Morrison's been in with a better pedigree of fighter. It's an interesting one.
It is very, mate. You can make an argument for both for certain. Yeah. Good evening, Joe. How do you see the Denzel Bentley Marcus Morrison fight going, which is on BT Sports tomorrow night? Drop us your thoughts in the sidebar, mate.
It'll be interesting to see where Bentley goes in that middleweight division if he wins his fight, because he's going to have to start moving up through them levels eventually, isn't it?
Yeah. I don't know how many fights this is. I don't know how many defenses this is for him. But you would think he'd only want the 3 to secure the belt, and then he'd move on. Be interesting to see him at European level. I think he's got levels in him, mate. World level, maybe not. Maybe that's a bit of a push, but European level for certain.
So Joe said both are natural middleweights, and it will be close for the first 6 rounds. Then I see Bentley taking over late stoppage.
Yeah, I can see your thought process there, Joe. Absolutely, mate. Cole, what do you think to these Friday fight nights? Are you a fan?
Yeah, I quite like them, especially when you've got a big card going on Saturday. I think Friday night is well placed for a fight night. The majority of people work Monday to Friday, so Friday night is your night where you kick back and enjoy a fight. I won't say it's too loud, but it saves you talking to the wife as well, which normally helps. But no, I'm quite a fan of a Friday night fight night. Can you imagine putting this on tomorrow? When you got them other cards going off, you got Canelo happening later on that evening as well. It's a bit overkill. So yeah, in short, I think there's a time and a place, but Friday night should be utilised more. I mean,
there's a massive argument in there that the two gigantic, well, not quite so gigantic now, but the two fights that are going on, the two cards, that are going on next weekend. There's an argument if one of them was on a Friday night, they'd both win. They'd both get higher views. They'd probably both get higher ticket sales.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of competition on Saturday nights now, isn't there? Both stateside and in the UK. You've got Premier League football often kicking off a little bit later in 7:30 now on Saturdays. Doesn't happen so much on Fridays. So I agree with your thoughts about next week. You can only watch one live. Only watch one live. So, and also the punters who like to go to fight nights. So I do think promoters need to consider the fight fan a little bit more.
It smacks a little bit of these promoters trying to show that they're the big bollocks. Yeah. I'm not stepping to one side. I'm not backing down and putting my fighter on a Friday night. But you need to swallow a little bit of pride and realise that they're doing each other a bit of damage here.
Yeah, they all do it, don't they? I mean, Eddie Hearn's goes cock-a-hoot when he puts AJ card on because he knows no one can compete.
Yeah.
But then when other fighters, he steps aside, don't he? But Warren does the same. So I just think
Well, I mean, they both. The problem is they're both strong cards. One not as strong. I don't know whether you want to touch on that in a little bit later. We can do, but one of them now is no longer as strong as it was. So the likelihood is, I would think the greater viewership will go over now and watch the fight on BT box office.
Well, I mean, let's do it now. There's no two ways about it. When you've got a fight card up at the Metropolitan Arena in Nottingham, and Nottingham's world champion pulls out through no fault of his own, these injuries happen. Lee Wood would never pull out of a fight unless he had to. Let's just get that straight.
Not in a million years, mate.
I've had some ridiculous people tweeting, and then obviously people are talking about Michael Conlan. Is he going to jump in with him now? No, he'll just rematch Lara. You know, it'll just Conlan's going to have to earn his stripes to get that rematch with Lee Wood. So
it annoys me a little bit, mate, that I gave the Conlans a lot of respect after that fight because they were very respectful to Lee Wood about the win and didn't show sour grapes or anything. But all of a sudden, over the last, it's because he wants to fight, to be fair. But all of a sudden, you're getting interviews come out where he's been a little bit derogatory towards Lee and towards Ben Davison. Jamie Conlan's done an interview. I haven't watched it, but he's done an interview where he's not shining Ben Davison in a great deal of light. And there's no need for it.
Yeah, as you know, Andy, I'm not blowing my own smoke here, but I know people in and around the Lee Wood camp.
Yeah.
And not that I needed a showing, but they said to me he's trained for a while with this injury, trying to get to the fight, but he just couldn't do it. And also, you wouldn't want him jumping in with a torn bicep, would you? Against Lara, against any fight.
No, Lara's. I mean, let's not underestimate what Lara's capable of.
Dangerous fighter.
He's a very, very dangerous fighter, and Lee's got cojones like watermelons to take the fight in the first place. It would be absolutely ridiculous of Lee to take that fight injured, because that undermines everything he's achieved in the last year.
And don't forget what's on the line for this fight regarding the WBC, etc. as well.
Yeah, exactly, mate. Exactly. See, it's the only thing he could do. It's the only thing he could do. But back to the point that the whole point of the fight card being in Nottingham was because Nottingham's world champion was headlining it. That's now not happening, but the card's going ahead with a fighter from Sheffield and a fighter from Leeds.
Who's that? Who's
Al Barrett.
It's not Al Barrett, is it? Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be interesting, really, because I think you've got an idea of how many tickets that Lee Wood sold for this fight, and if any of them are thinking along the lines of people we know that were going, that are now asked for the potential to be asking for refunds, if that's a possibility, then you might find an arena half full.
Well, surely if our Barry is that big a ticket seller, it's not a problem, is it? Because all that happens, there'll be more room for Sheffield fans. Surely.
Oh, come on. I think we both know, mate, that if the Lee Wood fans decide they all want refunds, there's going to be less than half full arena in there.
Be interesting. So, shall we move on?
Absolutely.
So, we've done the BT Sport one. Let's move on to the one that's going to make me and you grouchy on Sunday morning.
Well, first and foremost, mate, I'm going to be up anyway, for obvious reasons. I've got myself a new little pooch who's keeping me up half the night, to be quite honest. So I'll be up anyway, regardless of the fight being on or off. I was planning on only watching the main fight. I don't like a lot of these undercards from the States, mate. I really don't.
The only one I wanted to point out on the undercard is a fighter that often goes under the radar in the UK, but I think he's got serious cojones on him, and that's Kieran Conway.
Oh, absolutely.
So Kieran Conway's fighting Amo Williams.
Who's seriously dangerous.
But this kid needs some respect. He's not the first time he fought Sissoko on another big card at the AT&T.
Yeah.
So he's obviously packing his gum shield and travelling. And you never get a bad fight out of Kieran Conway, do you? Let's be honest. He wears his heart on his sleeve.
Yeah, he gives everything, mate.
So
yes, you're right though. He's got some serious cojones taking on. Such a dangerous fighter. Massive.
But it's a change your life type of fight, isn't it? You know.
Just let me just stop you there, Joe. In the sidebar, I will be watching Galahad, and he's got some sleepy faces. It will get me to sleep early, and I can get up for the Canelo GG fight. Not a big fan then, I'm guessing, Joe. Why is that? Explain to us why you're not a fan of Galahad, and then that takes the pressure off me and Cole saying it.
Although, if you watch previous shows, you'll understand where me and Andy are coming from regarding our. I mean, to be calling him our barriers gives you an indication. So, Triple G versus Canelo, Canelo versus Triple G, whichever way around you want it. There's some needle in this build-up, isn't there?
You know what? How many years is it since the last fight? 4 years? 5 years?
Yeah, I think I've not got the date to hand, but it must be in and around there.
Just picking up on Joe's comment. He says Galahad is boring as shit. I can't argue with you there, mate, I'm afraid. Yeah, he spoils, don't he? Is another way of putting it, Joe. I'll put it like that. He spoils. I've said it on a couple of shows. He's got the dark arts down to a T. For whatever reason, no referees seem to pick up on it from previous fights. They let him get away with stuff like standing on toes. Some fighters are off balance, putting his hand up into fighters' faces and throwing a hook with the opposite hand, so the fighter don't see it coming.
I mean, let's have it right. And Josh Warrington's not the cleanest of fighters, and he makes him look like Mary Poppins.
He does, don't he? But it is what it is, mate. It's successful for him. Because he's been a world champion because of it, but not my cup of tea. Let's put it like that. Anyway, moving back onto Canelo Triple G. Go ahead, mate. What you was going to say?
So I think the needle's genuine in this fight. I think they really don't like each other. On the entrances that they do now, this big entrance to when they arrive at Las Vegas, you can just tell the way they're looking at each other. This isn't no pantomime. I think they genuinely dislike each other. Although, we're very fortunate to have a trilogy in my view, because these two have been flag bearers, haven't they? Let's be honest.
I will go as far as to say Triple G is one of the best middleweights of all time.
Yeah.
He's right up there. He's right up there with the likes of Marvelous Marvin Hagler.
Yeah.
And
it'd live with any of them, wouldn't it?
Monzon, Sugar Ray Robinson. He's up there with all of them, mate. That's a big statement, and a lot of people will knock me for that. But I really do think the length of time he's been at the top, I really do think that. I'm really worried about this fight. I've got to be honest, because the needle for me, from Triple G's side, the needle for me is he knows he won that first fight.
Yeah.
And he didn't get the result. The second fight was close as well, and he didn't get the result. So I think that's where his needle comes from. I think Canelo's needle comes from, he's getting a lot of confidence from the fact that he knows that Triple G's way past his best.
He could well have one more Indian summer, though. He could well have one more performance in him. I'm not saying he wins, but I think he's gonna. He would have. I think he'll perform well on Saturday, Adam.
Let's hope that the last two performances, mate, have been because he hasn't been able to get up for the fighter.
And Ring was, remember, is out a long time before that fight, wasn't it? How long was it? 18 months?
I know, but he was really poor, mate. Really, really poor. So far off the pace. You know, for someone of his standard to have dropped to that standard worried me. Worried me that he'd gone that low.
I think Canelo wins, but I think Triple G is going to have some success in this fight. I think you're going to see a revitalized Triple G. Just picking Joe's comment up.
Joe's on it tonight, isn't he?
I agree. At his peak, Triple G was more avoided than the clap. Obviously, I'm too naive to understand what the clap is. Don't know. Sure, it's an interesting point to make, though, Joe. But yeah, I think he's coming. Yeah, I think he's going to be the best version he possibly can, anyway. And I think he'll drag Canelo late.
I hope you're right. I hope he puts a real dogged performance in, because I think that's all he's got left. I think Canelo knows he has the beating of him this time, with no controversy. It'll be a very, very one-sided fight, in my opinion, mate. Triple G might be in it for the first 5 or 6 rounds, but Canelo's so much fresher. You can't take anything from that last Canelo loss. That meant absolutely nothing in regards to his standing in the weight that this has been fought at.
No, it's top dog at super middle, isn't it?
Yeah. I'm going to watch it because these two fighters deserve to be watched, no matter what state of the career they're in. I'm disappointed it's taken as long as it's taken for this third fight to happen. And the reason it's taken so long is because Canelo didn't want it until now. He's not stupid. He's picked the time. He's picked the time. He knows how close them fights were. And he probably knows deep down he lost the first one, but he's never going to admit that, is he? I actually see a very one-sided demolition, if I'm being completely honest. Triple G is a very, very, very tough fighter.
Yeah.
So for Canelo to get him out of there, that would, for me, that would stamp that Triple G's done.
Well, he's going on record into Triple G saying he won't be happy unless he knocks him out.
Yeah, well, that's not going to happen, mate.
No.
If anyone's getting stopped in this fight, it's Triple G, because that's how much of a beatdown I think is very possible to be happening here. And I don't want it to be. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that's how I want the fight to go. I don't want that at all. Triple G deserves better from his final fight, from what he's done in his career. He don't deserve. He should have gone out on a different fight, in my opinion. He should have gone out on a fight that he could win. I think
he is a final better than this one.
I hope so. But if he does, mate, I hope it's a reasonable fight, and I hope it isn't hard to watch, because if it's as one-sided as I think it might be, then it's going to be difficult. It's going to be a difficult fight to watch. Having seen some of the stuff that Triple G's done over the years, it'd be a shame to see it go that way.
Yeah. Well, let's hope Joe says, that he can roll back the years. But I agree. At 168, it's a big ask. It's a big ask.
He's never fought at 168.
No.
So, and he's doing it on his final fight of his career when he's definitely past his best.
When he's 40.
Yeah, he's 40. He's past his best. He's fighting the best fighter on the planet at that weight. Yeah, it's all stacked against him, isn't it?
Okay, moving on then. So now we're going to move on to the rumours part of the show. So we'll start with this one, which is, people are getting very excited about a few comments that had never been proven by Chris Eubank Sr. Sauerland's come out and said this is still taking place. Eubank Jr. said it's still taking place. So I think people just need to calm down a little bit. I did tweet out that.
Let me just play devil's advocate a little bit. them rumours don't come from nowhere.
Really? You can
Come on. Come on. If it's been put out there by the Eubank camp to try and stir up the situation and put Ben off his training.
But I've only seen it from some random on Twitter. I've not seen it, and that's what I tweeted out. Why we've not seen it from any official source?
I hear you. But when the likes of Sam Jones is retweeting it,
what's he got to do with the fight?
He ain't got anything to do with the fight, mate. But he's got a lot to do with the boxing industry and knows everybody. So I can't imagine that Sam Jones would put his name to something like that unless he'd heard the rumours himself.
I would every day of the week. He loves a bit of come on, Sam Jones loves a bit of publicity.
Yeah, but why? When he's not involved, why? He stands no gain. He's not involved in the fight. He stands no gain.
Traction on Twitter, don't it?
But he stands no gain in the fight though. So why do it? I actually think he genuinely thought the fight was off, like a lot of people did. Either way, if this was a publicity stunt by the Eubanks to try and put Ben off of his game, it looks bad for the Eubanks. It looks bad. You know, Eubank Jr. has been doing all these videos, eating from chocolate fountains and eating KFC and saying he's only training off-hearted for this fight because he don't need to.
I thought he was quality. In that face-to-face, whatever they call it, I thought Eubank Jr. was quality.
The thing is though, mate, he does all that, and then you get these sort of comments coming
not
out
from him or his camp.
But you don't know that they're not from him or his camp.
He can't stop people talking, can he?
There's no certainty it's come from Senior, but it's something Senior would do.
What about the old saying, there's no such thing as bad publicity?
So why, okay, if it's not coming from Senior then, why did Callis Allen come out and say, I have a contract with Chris Eubank Jr., not Chris Eubank Sr.? Why didn't he just say, it's all bollocks?
I think that's his way of saying it's bollocks.
No, it's not. No, what he's basically saying, without saying it to Eubank's faces, stay out of it.
I think it's a great way of getting it still high profile, getting it out there. People haven't stopped talking about it all week. Job done in my view. Thank you very much.
I just think it's a bad look. I think it's a bad look for the Eubanks, mate. When Junior's coming out with all this stuff he is and being a Eubank, he's basically trying to drag up exactly the way Chris Senior used to be when he was going into fights with the likes of Ben and Collins.
I think it's a case of we're going to let you talk and talk and talk. Nothing's come out from us officially. Nothing's come out with Sauerland or Matchroom or the camp. So you could have put it out. So it's got no credibility, has it?
It has credibility when Callis Sauerland says what he said. That tells me he's basically saying there, telling Eubank Senior to butt out.
But you said the fight's still on, didn't you? The fight's still on during that interview. So what you know?
Yes, yeah, but that was after the fact, wasn't it? That interview was done after.
Again, he can't control.
No, I know he can't. I know he can't. I know, but he can't control it. But when Chris Senior is supposedly coming out and saying, "I don't want my son fighting in this fight because I don't want to lose another son." I mean, come on, that's a big statement. It's a big thing to say.
But that was in what paper was that in?
I don't know what it was in. I've obviously heard it secondhand, haven't I?
I like to hear it from the horse's mouth. That's all I'm saying.
No, I get you, mate. I get you. I think it's a very bad look from the Eubanks. You know, when you got Junior coming out with all this stuff, trying to dismiss Conor Ben. Maybe that's his way of getting up for the fight. Maybe it's his way of getting a bit of motivation and a bit of belief in himself. Whatever.
It is a strange one in the perspective of it really doesn't need much more of a push commercially because it's going to do massive numbers anyway. So
why come out and say it? Why put the fight in jeopardy for number one? And why get involved?
But again, playing devil's advocate, we don't know he has said it, do we?
Okay. Okay. We know we don't, right? We know we don't. Okay. But he's had nothing to do with Eubanks training up to this point for this fight. Even Eubanks said that he said it in a couple of interviews now that he wasn't going to use Roy Jones for this fight, that he wanted his dad to be in his corner, but he can't find him. He can't get hold of him. You know, he hasn't spoken to him for a while. And then Cini comes in, drops into camp, and then says this.
But as he dropped into camp, yeah, we don't even know that, do we? Because Ronnie Davis is doing the training at the minute.
Talking about the rehydration clause, saying that's his concern. Well, maybe it should have been. Maybe it should have been around. Maybe it should have been your concern when they were negotiating the fight.
And that's why it don't ring true to me, because this would have all been discussed during the contracts.
It does to me because this is what the Eubanks have always done, Carl. This is why
it's signed. It's signed.
This is what the Eubanks have always done. This is why Chris Jr. has never fought for a genuine world title. This is why he never fought Triple G. This is why he's never fought Canelo.
I'll say what I said on Twitter. I believe this fight goes ahead purely because I think Chris Eubanks Jr. thinks it's a walk in the park, and also because of how much dough's on the table.
It will go ahead. I'm not saying it's not going ahead. I'm saying it's a bad look. The fight will go ahead. It's too far down the line now. When you've got Eubanks' promoter coming out and saying it, and you've had no word from the other camp, then the fight's going ahead. It's just a bad look. This is what the Eubanks do all the time. It's what they've always done. It's why Chris Eubank Jr. hasn't won a world title, like I've just said, and not a genuine world title. They price themselves out of fights. They do things like this, and it just scuppers things.
I don't think I said on previous shows it's not a great fight for either of them. No. They shouldn't be taking this fight. It's ridiculous. And I put as much emphasis on the Ben camp as I did the Eubank camp for taking this fight. There's other fights like Keith Thurman who they could be jumping in with. And
the thing is, it's a very dangerous fight. And what is Ben actually, other than money, what's Ben actually getting from winning the fight? If he takes on a dangerous fighter at his own weight, like a Thurman, which he could very easily win because Thurman's past his best, that puts him in a better position ranking-wise. So he's getting something from the win. I don't understand what he's getting from this other than money and well, if you want to call it legacy. If you want to call it bragging rights for the families.
And there's a rematch clause in the middle of all this as well, so we're going to get it again.
Well, that's just ridiculous, mate. Unless it's an absolute barnstormer, which it could be. If it's an absolute barnstormer, we'll all want to watch it again. Because of what it brings and the memories it brings back from the fathers fighting. It's the wrong time for Ben for me. It's maybe the right time for Eubank because I don't think he's got a lot left.
I'm disappointed in
Conor cashing Ben. He's cashing in.
It actually feeds into my narrative what I've been saying about Conor Ben, him taking this fight. You know where I'm saying he's avoiding the top end of the division, etc.
Yeah.
You know, it feeds into all that narrative.
It doesn't help, does it? I'm finding it difficult. You've seen on the show, mate. I've been a massive backer of Conor Ben. I think the lad's really talented. And I think he'll prove it, but I think he's been stopped by the powers that be that are managing his career. Do you want to pick up some of the sidebars? Because seems though we've been going off on one, we're missing a few things.
So Joe said I agree. At his peak, Triple G was more avoided than the clap like previous. So I'm still trying to work that one out, Joe. Joe then said I'm hoping Triple G can roll back the years up to 168. It's very hard. It's very hard to go against Canelo. Joe said, in my opinion, it's very shady that the rehydration clause hasn't been made public, and I've not seen one interview where it has been asked. Sport Mode UK, good evening, Sport Mode UK. That rehydration clause is concerning. Joe says, I think Senior did a sit down with one of the newspapers. And that'll be regarding his comments. Joe says, I said from the start it's bad matchmaking. Ben's looking juiced to the gills, and Junior is going to look like skeletal on the scales. Throw in the rehydration clause, recipe for disaster.
That's obviously Senior's concern as well. Ben looks absolutely massive, and I've been saying from the very start of this that Ben moving up 2 weights to fight Chris Eubank, it basically is 2 weights,
Yeah.
barring a couple of pound. He's having to bulk to get to that weight, and that's exactly what Joe's saying there. My concern's not whether he's okay for this
Boiling
fight.
back down.
It's when he's got to boil himself back down to welterweight. Trying to lose that muscle is going to be much more difficult than trying to lose fat. So it's going to take him longer. It's going to wear him out. And then does he have anything left? Does he carry any of that power back down that he's clearly got currently? Is he still going to have that? Kell Brook was not the same fighter, mate. I know Triple G is a completely different beast than Eubank Jr. But it wasn't about the beating he got against Triple G. It was him having to get back down to welterweight and then fight a top-end fighter in Spence. Yeah. And you could see after 6 rounds he was done in that fight. We could see it from the stands. He was done. He was fighting on fumes. Ben's got so long left at that weight class and so long left in his career. It would be an absolute travesty if coming up to take this one fight for money and bragging rights derails any hopes of him fighting at world level at welterweight. Because I think that's very likely.
Or he could just be training water, waiting for a belt to become vacant, which that's what I would suggest.
Yeah, but even so, mate, even if the belt becomes vacant, he's still going to be fighting a top-end fighter for it. Unless Mr. Rowan works his magic and gets a bum, it's unlikely for a world title. I don't know. I'm concerned about him going back down to welter after he's had this fight, mate. If I'm honest,
it's a lot of weight and mass to shift.
And if he stays at it for 2 fights, you're talking a year. With that weight on him, and then trying to get back down, it's even worse.
And just as a final note, you don't truly know how he's going to perform with that additional weight.
No.
You just don't know. So,
and there's no 2 ways about it. I know you think that Eubank might use his skill and movement and box. I don't think there's any chance of that happening in this fight. It is just going to be a complete tear up, mate.
So, Larry Liston, good evening, Larry. Eubank might come in overweight, although Ben is the one moving up. Seems weird. There is an argument where I know there's a financial penalty to Eubank if he comes in overweight, but tactically, it wouldn't be a disaster.
Is it £100,000 per pound?
I think it's something along them lines, yeah. Larry also said, it's a bit laughable that Eubank is apprehensive about taking the fight when he is the favourite. Again, who said he's apprehensive? We don't know that, do we? Again, we're listening to hearsay. Yeah, man, I'm not a fan of really doing that. I don't think he's apprehensive. I think he thinks he walked straight through, Ben, in my opinion.
This has got shades of Bellew Hay written all over it, this has. Everyone was expecting David Hay to come and walk through Bellew. He put out them videos of being on yachts, sunbathing rather than training, doing a little bit of pad work on the back of a yacht. Really bad luck. This has got shades of that for me. I know.
They're a lot similar in weight, though, aren't they?
No, yeah. Well, I know. But what I'm saying, I'm on about the mindset of Hay in comparison to the mindset of Junior.
It's a big smoke screen for me. Eubank Jr. is still training as hard as he normally is. It's all a smoke.
Yeah, maybe, mate, maybe. But when have you ever seen Eubank Jr. eating KFC and dipping into a chocolate fountain in his whole career? That don't happen.
So Larry said, "Hope you're right, mate. It's a cracking fight. I got Eubank as well, but I hope that Ben can get it done. I'm cheering for Ben, but it's a hard fight."
I want Ben to win. I want Ben to win because
I've got no allegiance. I'll be honest. I don't really. As long as it's a good fight, I don't really care who wins.
I want Ben to win because I prefer Ben's outlook on boxing. I prefer his attitude towards boxing. I've said it a lot for a long time, and people will disagree with me, and the Eubanks won't like it. Junior is not in boxing for legacy or triumph or belts. He's in boxing to make money. There's a lot of fighters out there doing
Nothing wrong with
exactly the same
that.
thing, I'm sure. But that's not, I prefer the mentality that Ben's got of I'll fight anybody whenever. I prefer that mentality as a fighter. Yeah. So yeah, I'm in Ben's corner for this fight. I don't like it though, mate. I'll be completely honest. I don't want it to happen. It is happening, so we might as well watch it if it's happening.
Right, moving on. So this one's a bit of a strange one. Proposed to be happening on November the 5th. Deep in talks is what we're alleged to believe. Interesting that Zach Parker's from Derby. So anyone who's not from the UK, Derby's in the middle of the country next door to Nottingham. And there's a little bit of a rivalry between the two.
A little bit.
So interesting that whether it's due to a venue size, this was originally scheduled for a football stadium, Pride Park in Derby, which holds probably about 30,000 under, say around
30,
that.
35, I'd say probably, yeah.
So it's interesting that I just think Andre's got nowhere to go, is my honest opinion. I think he's touted himself around the super middleweight division and there's no takers. So he's coming back. This is a mandatory, isn't it, from memory?
No, so it's a final eliminator for the number one spot for the WBO. So Zach Parker's currently the number one. He holds the intercontinental or international belt. Andrade is getting this shot courtesy of the fact that he was WBO champion at middleweight. So he automatically goes straight up to the top at super middleweight when he moves up. That's just one of the things that the WBO have always done. They don't do it in all weights. So basically, Andrade has had no choice but to take this fight.
And the winner gets Canelo then?
The winner gets Canelo. That's exactly it. So it's really, I mean, do you believe Andrade was injured last time?
No.
Neither do I. I think he was scared to come to the UK.
He lost his passport as well, didn't he?
Yeah. So all a load of BS, isn't it, mate? Interesting though. I mean, obviously, mid-season, it's football season. Mid-season is probably why this fight isn't happening at Pride Park. That's obviously where Zach Parker wants it to be because he's a Derby fan.
Yeah.
Just the same as any other fighter from another area that's a football fan would want to fight in their home stadium. I mean, this is a defining night for Zach Parker. He's fighting a very, very talented fighter at light middle and at middleweight. He's a two-weight world champion. Let's not forget. My honest opinion, Zach Parker is way, way, way too big, and he's gonna.
Why is it that I don't like Andrade? Because
he's gonna hurt Andrade in this fight.
I don't know why I don't like him, but I don't. I find him a bit boring. Yeah, I can remember him calling Canelo out in the press conference, didn't I?
Canelo just swept
like, get the fuck out of here! Get the fuck out of here!
Yeah.
Poor impression, but yeah. So I think we don't know how good Zach Parker is, to be honest. We don't. So.
Oh, Joe, are you drinking tonight, Joe, by any chance?
Paolo One Shot, there's a name. Wow, you're taking me back there, Joe.
Blast from the past.
You'll be all about Fabrizio Ravanelli next.
So, Larry Listeners put, haven't seen much of Andrade, to be fair.
Is it
Andrade fought for Billy Joe Saunders as belt when Billy Joe had to relinquish. Is that right?
He got stripped, didn't he?
That's right. He got stripped, and the controversial thing is that at the time, Eddie Hearn was his promoter, and all of a sudden, the other fighter he's got at that weight gets the world title. Yeah, a bit dodgy, but anyway. So he, in my opinion, Andrade never really fought the top enders.
He beat Liam Williams up though, didn't he? If we're honest.
Okay, so I'll go back to my answer. He hasn't fought a top ender at
No.
middleweight.
But he beat Liam Williams up, and that's probably nothing to write home about. But Liam Williams just wasn't good enough to get near him.
No. Well, Liam Williams isn't world class, is he? And that's no disrespect to him.
I mean, look what Liam Smith did to Liam Williams.
Exactly. Look what Eubank did to Liam Williams.
Yeah. So
Joe's put, I don't drink. I take it back, mate.
I don't either, Joe.
Yeah, of course you don't, mate. Not today.
So I actually don't think this is going to be an easy fight for Zach Parker, like you're suggesting. I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think Andre is going to beat him if they get in the ring. I think he'll be too skillful. I'm not sure we know how good Zach Parker is.
I think Zach Parker's a lot better than everybody's giving him credit for, mate.
He's going to need to beat Andre, though, isn't he? All joking aside.
So he's a much bigger fighter. I see this playing out like a lot of these kind of scenario fights play out, in that Andre will have a lot of the first half of the fight with movement and boxing skill. That's going to catch up on him, mate. With the increase in weight, the pressure of Zach Parker, the pressure Zach Parker's going to put on him. Zach Parker stops him, in my opinion, in the very late rounds. But it'll be a good fight. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I don't think Parker's going to be good enough. There you go. I've said it.
Okay.
I think Andre will. It'll be a wide point decision for me. I think.
No.
I don't think Parker will get close to him. That's my honest opinion.
I think Zach Parker's a very, very underrated fighter, and he's going to show
it. We'll find out.
Yo, this is his. Like I've just said a bit ago. This is his defining night, mate.
Well, he's just coming out fight, isn't it? If he's good enough.
Yeah.
So a lot on the line as well. Hell of a lot on the line.
But back to what you were. But I think you were alluding to the fact that it's a little bit strange that this is happening at Nottingham Arena.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of an arena in and around Derby that could probably hold around 10,000 like the arena can. I can't come up with one.
There isn't one.
So that's probably why.
Nottingham's the closest arena. I mean, you're talking 20 minutes down the road, half an hour down the road from Derby. So
down the A52.
Yeah, down Brian Clough Way. It's not like the Derby faithful that are going to support Zach Parker have got far to go.
No.
And the way it works in Derby and Nottingham, about half of the people work in Nottingham that are going to be going to the fight.
Well, I mean, there's even parts of Derbyshire that are even closer to the city centre, Andy, in that, you know?
Yeah.
So it depends where they're coming from in Derby. They haven't got a long trek. So I'm just wondering what Zach Parker will think about the fact that he's swapped Pride Park for Nottingham Arena.
He's not going to be happy about it, is he? Let's be right. He got his heart set on the baseball ground. I always say that. Pride Park. He got his heart set on Pride Park. And why wouldn't he? You know, it's a dream for a Derby fan as a boxer to fight there, isn't it? Same as it would be for Lee Wood to fight at the City Ground.
Yeah.
So it's got to be disappointing. It's got to be disappointing that first fight didn't happen. And now the fact that it's football season and the you just can't do it, mate. Especially at that time of year as well. It's not a covered arena. You know, the weather's going to play a massive part. It just can't happen in winter. It just can't. So why not? I mean, Nottingham's the closest place with a big enough arena.
Well, the thing is, I'm going to go.
Yeah.
You know. Let's see what Mr. Warren can do in terms of a fight card. So moving on to the last topic of the night. No surprises. God, we're having this rammed down the throat, aren't we, from media outlets? Feels like every day there's something else being said. I think the latest position is that contracts have now been sent from Warren to Hearn, but by all accounts, 90% of the fight's been agreed. The purses have been agreed. So now it's just about the TV networks working it out. But obviously, there's a good relationship between BT and DAZN, so I'd expect it to be a dual broadcast. So it looks like, is it December the 5th?
The 3rd, isn't it?
3rd. So early December. My bet would be Cardiff because you can close the roof off. So
I don't think it happens in England.
don't you? I think it's going to Saudi Arabia.
I think it's the only place. It's the only place, mate, that can generate the money that these guys are going to want.
Well, they're making noises, aren't they? They want it in the UK.
I know that Fury has stated that date was Cardiff Principality. There was a date for Wembley Stadium a
November
week before.
time. Yeah. Which is
And
never going to happen, was
the
it?
third was Cardiff. But I'm not convinced that they generate enough money for what them two are going to want, even on pay-per-view in a UK fight.
Well, they must have done the maths because I'm sure they said the pot's worth about 75 million.
Right.
So they've done the maths, and so they all know what they're getting because Warren and Durham are saying that was the biggest barrier, and that's all done.
I mean, and if that is the case, mate, then props to him for taking it in the UK because this fight deserves to be in the UK.
It does.
Whether it's I mean, I don't mind either Principality or Wembley. There's not a lot of difference in size. I would have liked to have seen it at Wembley because I think it's a grander stage. Historic wise. But if the fight gets on, mate, I mean, I'm not going to be going to it. I'm going to be sat in my living room, whether it's at Wembley or whether it's at Cardiff. So it makes no odds to me.
It's just, I think I like the way AJ's kind of said. Obviously, Tyson sent the offer over and said, "That's all you have in. That's it." I think half expecting AJ to negotiate a little bit. And AJ went, "Fine, where do I sign?" And you've got to give him props for that.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think
it's
Fury
a
was half expecting AJ and Eddie Hearn to go, "No, you're all right."
Well, I think Hearn does want to go a different way.
Yeah, he does. He don't want AJ to take the fight. The thing is, like you've said, the rights to broadcast have not been discussed or agreed. Imagine if DAZN don't get this fight.
They will though. They will. I think.
Imagine if they didn't. That'd be the last two major fights for Anthony Joshua after signing that gigantic deal with DAZN that potentially are not on their platform.
But they will. I think that'll be. I think would have had that. My understanding is that was in the contract that DAZN must be able to stream this because AJ's got exclusivity with DAZN.
Do you think DAZN stream it in the UK, or do you think?
I think it'll be dual.
BT take it in the UK and DAZN take it across the world.
No, I think it'll be a dual broadcast, and I'll tell you the reason why, especially in the UK, because BT have got a bigger viewership in the UK than DAZN anyway. So I think they'll be comfortable saying, "Yeah, we'll dual broadcast it," because they'll be confident they'll attract the majority of the pay-per-view buyers in the UK anyway. Just picking up Joe's comment, is Stoke anywhere near Notts? As I can see, Haney on the card. He brings the fans. Yes, about an hour away. So Stoke's easily accessible. Although having gone to the Britannia recently, getting out of Stoke might be a problem. Larry Liston, perhaps it's just me, but besides Canelo versus Triple G and the upcoming Fury versus AJ fight, it seems boxing's lost a bit of steam lately. Well, they're not bad fights, are they? Them two to keep a bit of momentum. I mean, you've still got Joyce versus Parker. That's not a bad fight. And now you'll have Lara versus Wood. Don't forget you got Crawford versus Spence, rumoured to be going middle of November as well. So I'll be honest with you, I think it's picking up in terms of the best fight and the best in boxing, which can only be a good thing. Lara versus Wood being called off really stung on me. That was a bad blow, but hopefully they will reschedule. Yeah, with the new year, that one will. Joe says the tickets and pay-per-view will be astronomical. Andy can afford it. I won't be able to afford it, though.
I can't afford it anymore, mate.
So Joe says BT aren't going to share rights in the UK with DAZN unless they are being paid for the rights. Yeah, my understanding is, Joe, that BT are really confident that, like I said, they got viewership in the UK. So I think they'll dual broadcast it. I'm not sure about what they have to pay to do that, DAZN. But remember, AJ's exclusivity deal with DAZN kicks in now. So there's got to be some part to play for DAZN in the UK. DAZN aren't going to go, no, forget about the UK. We'll take the worldwide rights, but forget about the UK. Because you want to develop in the UK, don't they? So there's got to be a deal there somewhere. So I think this goes ahead, AJ Fury. I think it will go ahead. People are saying they don't think it will. I think AJ's bent over backwards to get this fight over the line, hasn't it? To be honest.
Do you mean Fury has?
No, I think AJ has. I think AJ's, obviously the contract's come over. 60-40. Rematch clause is going to, if there's a rematch clause in there, which is 50-50. So I think AJ's just signed it because, let's be honest with you, it's getting him right back in for a world title shot straight away, isn't it? Rather than having to go on a bit of a world tour and do it in 3 or 4 fights time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a no-brainer for AJ, in my opinion. The only stickler is his mindset going to be right?
Is his mindset going to be right again? If you can't get his mindset right for Tyson Fury, you may as well hang up his gloves.
But the point I'm making is, mate, when they start this presser, they'll do a press tour.
Yeah,
they'll go on. They'll have a few, won't they? Fury's going to stick it on AJ in these pressers. He's going to test his mind. He's going to test his bottle. If AJ's mind isn't right after what went down against Usyk, then he's going to be a mess after these pressers because Fury's the master at it. And if he's a mess after the pressers, what's he going to be like on fight night? That's the only thing that made me think the fight wouldn't happen originally. But clearly AJ's.
Well, remember, Earn didn't want it to happen. He's come out and said that, didn't he?
I know you don't want it to happen.
AJ's obviously said to his management and to Eddie Earn. Eddie Earn's openly said this: just make the fight, Eddie. Just make the fight.
Yeah.
So Joe says, I think Fury put Joshua in a position where he couldn't be seen to turn the fight down. As Andy Lee said, Fury's a puppet master. Lavinson says, who will buy Wilder versus AJ if AJ lost 4 out of his last 6? Yeah, but you got to remember who them losses are against. I would still buy it.
AJ's going to be a draw regardless, Larry, unfortunately. I hear what you're saying. Because to sell a fight, you've got to make it seem like it's a 50-50 winnable fight. I hear what you're saying, that if AJ loses 6 out of his last 6, how'd you create the narrative that he's going to win the fight? It's going to be a 50-50 fight.
I'll tell you what you do. You put him in against the likes of Dillian White at that next level down, who he'll smash.
Yeah.
And then put him back in with Wilder. You can quite easily take him on a... Listen, if AJ wanted to fight until he was 45 fighting delisted boxers, he could do it and still fill arenas. So
but at some point, Carl, I hear what Larry's saying, because at some point, the people that have always believed AJ's invincible,
I don't think they
a lot of them still do think that. A lot of his followers still do think that. They thought he was going to win the second fight with Usyk. They're all going to... Every single one of them that have said that about the 2 Usyk fights, every single one of them will say the same thing about Fury, that AJ will beat Fury.
Well, they must be hardcore AJ fans.
Yeah, no, aren't there? That's the point I'm making. But
I suggest them numbers are dwindling.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. And I think that's what Larry's saying as well.
But it's not just hardcore. Taking them to one side, a typical fight fan will still be watching. So he loses against Fury. Then he fights Dillian White and sparks him.
Yeah.
Then he jumps in with Wilder after that fight. Are you trying to tell me he won't do numbers?
He'll still do numbers, but will he do the same amount of numbers?
Yes, in a word. I don't think it hurts his brand one iota by jumping in with Fury, even if he gets beat. Because nobody expects him to win, let's be honest.
No hardcore boxing fans do, Carl. But the general public that don't really understand the dynamics of boxing. They know AJ from being on all these talk shows and all these chat shows and all this and all that. They know AJ the personality more than they do the boxer.
Let's be honest though, Tyson Fury and AJ are on the front and back pages of newspapers and on websites, blah blah blah. So it's not only, you know, a lot of people know who these people are and follow the fights.
Yeah.
So I don't think it harms his brand. I really don't. And I think, like I've said, people are, if anything, AJ can go into this fight with no pressure. Tyson's got all the pressure.
I agree with you there.
Because no one expects, if he gets sparked out in the first round, everyone's going to say, well, we expected Fury to beat AJ. Then AJ goes, thank you very much. I'll jump in with Dillian White. And then I'll probably pick up a wild, if he wants it, a wilder fight.
I disagree with you slightly there. If AJ gets beat convincingly again, it does a lot of damage mentally to him, in my opinion. He's got to show something extra in this fight, mate.
But he's shown balls in it. He's shown an improvement in the Usyk fight, you'd argue.
Not that much of one, though, did he? Come on, Carl.
But he's shown balls, though, didn't he?
Did he?
Well, he was in there. He didn't duck out, did he? I thought he did all right.
He didn't duck out in the first fight, but he wasn't in it.
But that's Usyk. It's not harmed his brand, has it?
No, it's not harmed his brand. But he needs to show a bit more grit and determination, in my opinion. He needs to show a bit of something else. The old AJ that we're all talking about, that still didn't come out in that second fight, mate. The old AJ would have put it on Usyk when he hurt him.
But how long are we talking now? Because, you know, that AJ's long gone over the hills. And we all know that. It's gone. So, but it's not harmed his brand. You're telling me he still don't do his big numbers for the zone, even if he gets beat by Fury and then jumps in the
water? Of course he does. But how long if that keeps on happening?
As long as he wants to. That's the answer. As long as he wants to. Because people are still going to buy it in the big numbers.
I don't know, mate. I don't know if people buy into it, if it keeps on happening. I don't know
if he picks up the odd win against a Dillian White or Ergovic just to prove that he's still slightly above that level. Although
if he does that, then I agree with you. If he does that. But if he loses to, the point I'm making is, if he loses to Fury and it's dramatic, like you just said, if it's a first round knockout, I don't think AJ's going to believe in himself after that.
But it's
and
not
then he goes into a fight against the likes of a Dillian White, not 100% confident.
We won't know that. If he doesn't believe in himself, he'll probably hang his gloves up. Because what else has he got to prove after his fought Fury?
Well, he's just signed a massive contract.
What's that matter? He's going to be a brand ambassador as well. We don't know what that contract is. We don't know what the release clause is or how many fights it's for. It's a lifetime deal. What does that even mean? So I'll pick up some comments up in the side. Larry said, both of you have good points. In this day and age, even YouTubers are filling arenas. So someone as legit as AJ could so as well. However, that's a different crowd. He goes on to say, if AJ loses devastatingly by KO, it might be completely over. And he might very well lose to a Joyce or Parker to finish the downward spiral. Joe said, I think this is all or nothing fight for Joshua. I doubt he fights again if he gets stopped off Fury. Yeah, what I would say, it's his choice though, Joe. I still think he'll pack out arenas if he gets beat by Fury if he went on a world tour like Earn wanted to. But if he decides the spark isn't there anymore, he could well retire.
Does it just become a scenario of the fire's not there, but the money is, so I'll carry on?
How much more money does he need?
Well, say that to any billionaire, mate, or millionaire. How much more money they need? Why do any of them carry on?
I mean, it's all about it comes down to motivation at the end of the day, don't it? And whatever drives that motivation, we'll never know. Yeah. But has he got the motivation or hasn't he? Look at Billy Joe Saunders. You know, he's only just started training again after Canelo. So it's all about has he still got that desire or not. But to say that I still think he's a big draw, you know. I still think he gets beat by Fiore. He'll probably then have that plan that Eddie Hearn talks about, where let's build him up slowly, get him out 3 times in a year maybe, and then jump in with a Wilder, and then he might finish. I think the Fury fight's just an added bonus for him, if I'm honest.
We'll see.
So that's the end for tonight. Andy, do you want to take us out?
Yeah, great show again. It's really good. I like it when we don't agree on stuff all the time, because it'd be boring. And it's really good when you get comments from people in the sidebar that really know what they're talking about. We're getting it quite a lot. Similar sort of faces popping up. You know, the Larrys and the Joes come on every single week, and they're very knowledgeable with the boxing. So it's brilliant, lads. Thanks a lot. Keep on coming on. Try and if you get the opportunity, jump on screen with us, because this is what our show is all about. It always has been. It's always been about your opinions. Neither of me or Carl want to be some sort of a showboating superstars. It's not what we're about. You know, we started this show just because we were boxing fans and didn't have a voice. We were sick and tired of seeing certain interviewers and interviews on YouTube where the interviewers weren't putting it on people.
Where they don't involve the fans either.
And they don't involve the fans. Fans don't get the opinion. At the end of the day, these boxers wouldn't be millionaires if it wasn't for the fans. If it wasn't for the people buying pay-per-views and packing out arenas, these fighters wouldn't make a living. So we needed a platform for you guys, and this is what it is. So keep coming on, and if you can, jump on screen. It'd be great to finally meet you. But thanks for tonight. And again, another packed out show next Thursday. We've got some interesting stuff going on. Myself and Carl are going to a show on that Saturday night on the 24th, which we'll talk about next week, as well as the 2 big super cards that are happening next weekend as well. So come back on, packed out show. We'll see you next Thursday.
I'm sorry about the